Like in the movie, we see Juliet driving her car and walking in the desert. It's clear that the whole world is destroyed around her. As she walks, she suddenly stops when she finds a car standing in front of her. She gets down to see the car and finds a burned corpse next to it. But she doesn't care about the body and keeps looking in the car for anything that might benefit her. After she finishes searching, she goes back to her car and continues her way very normally again until she reaches a gas station. She finds a body attached to the station door and its neck is flying. But she also doesn't care and continues her way and enters a house near the station, keeping an eye out for any supplies or anything that might benefit her. But unfortunately, the house is completely empty and has nothing that might benefit her. She's very tired from all the searching, so she has to sit at home for a while to rest. But she can't sit because she hears a strange sound in the house, specifically from above her. So she's very afraid and terrified and runs outside the house and returns to the car again to continue her journey. While she's in the car, her friend Ben calls her via the radio and talks to her to check on her and to know what she found. But she shocks him and tells him that she didn't find anything but a little salt. But Ben gets mad at her and asks her to continue searching and tells her that salt will not benefit them and she must find food because there are 40 people who depend on her, and if she doesn't come back with food, they will die of hunger. He asks her to go to the gas station to look for food there, but you know what happened, and you know that she left the gas station and fled immediately when a monster attacked her. And we know that the world at that time is full of carnivorous monsters, humans, and between Juliet and the rest of the people who live together and try to look for food so that they can stay steadfast a little bit, the important thing is that we get back to Juliet, and who stops and gets out of her car when she finds a car in front of her, and when she turns around the car, you find the owner of the car injured and sitting on the ground, so she asks him what happened, so he tells her that a monster attacked him, but he was able to lock him inside the car, so he asks her to use his gun and kill him because he finishes and no one else comes and eats him and tortures him, but she tells him that the bullets in the gun are few and the bullets will not be lost on him after that. She knows from this man that the car has food, so she enters to kill the monster inside and takes all the food that is there. And when you get out, you find the man died because he lost a lot of blood, but she doesn't care and takes the food and continues her way very normally, which is the pursuit of the car. We see a picture of her with her husband, and in front we will know his story, and because of the air, the picture appears outside the car, so you are afraid to lose it because it is the only memory that she has left of him. You wrap it in the car quickly to catch the picture, but unfortunately she can't control the car, and she flips with it and faints after that. We go back in time a little, and the world is still normal, very normal, and nothing happened, and Juliet is walking in the street, but our hands are raining on her, so she enters a board exhibition until the airport is finished, and Jack, the owner of the exhibition, sees her, and he is the same person who was in the picture. The important thing is that Jack goes because he talks to her, and he likes her, by the way, from the first sight, so he comes to try to open words with her. He finds her standing in front of the painting and starts talking to her about the painting, but they know that she is not interested in the painting or interested in anything in the exhibition, and that she entered, but until the airport is finished. But Jack surprises her and goes to stand in the middle of the people and let them know that the exhibition is over. After that, he comes back to her and tells her, "I am coming with you as long as you are walking," so Juliet is happy from his words, and it is clear she began to admire him, and after that, he took her and went to his house, and with her intention she looked at him. They sat down and talked a little and drank a neat together, and indeed with the agreement of Juliet, and she would be very impressed with his house because it would be clear that he was very, very rich. And Jack knew that he inherited all this from his father and mother, and he started talking to her and knew that he was traveling in Paris and lived. There he recently returned, and after introducing himself, he inquires about her life so that she gets to know him a bit, yet she becomes a bit nervous and politely asks his permission and leaves. After a week, Jack accidentally sees her in the street and he follows her till he realizes that she's involved in drug distribution, hence her nervousness, and walking with him when she was there. Despite that, he keeps following her till he reaches her house and calls out for her. Her mood lightens when she sees him and invites him for a drink. As he sits with her, he observes her life is horribly miserable and that she's constantly intoxicated to the extent of injecting drugs. This immensely bothers Jack, so he offers to help her quit drugs and start a new life. However, she angrily rebuffs him, instructing him that she neither needs his sympathy nor his help, and tells him to leave. Sadly, Jack leaves, and for a while Juliet arrives at his place, yet she's been beaten and tickled. This initiates Jack to firstly treat her and take care of her, ensuring she's all right. The following day, her situation is better. She offers gratitude to him and tells him that she'll leave and get back to her life. Jack, however, disagrees and tells her he won't let her leave unless she gets treated for her addiction. Juliet gets extremely angry, leading her to break things in the house and bothers him by telling him she doesn't desire to get treated. Jack is eventually able to calm her down and convince her that she needs to get treated. Moreover, she heeds to his advice and decides to stay with him. So, we transition to the present day. Juliet wakes up after rolling her car and finds herself trapped inside with a broken leg. She attempts to locate her firearm, which has ended up out of reach. Despite her efforts, she fails to attain it and returns to her vehicle, trying to establish communication via radio with Ben. However, no response is given. Coincidentally, she hears the sound of a monstrous creature outside the car. Consequently, she hurriedly crawls out, reaches her firearm, and attempts to get back to the vehicle. The creature, however, crosses her path, not causing her harm as it doesn't observe her. Suddenly, Hope speaks to her over the radio, and the creature, disturbed by the noise, returns and stands in front of the vehicle. Juliet throws a wire of righteousness, hoping this would distract the beast and cause it to leave, which in fact works. Like this, he holds the wireless device to inspect it. Then, he tosses it aside and leaves. Juliet comes back to retrieve it, but the creature sees her, charges at her, and she starts firing multiple bullets at him. This scares the creature away. She then retrieves the device and heads back to the vehicle. We then flash back to the past, where we continue exploring her story with Jack. We learn that her life improved significantly with Jack by her side. She managed to quit drugs, and her relationship with Jack was getting better and stronger. They grow closer and eventually agree to marry. Jack then shows Juliet their new house, which he bought specifically for them to live in after their marriage. Juliet is overjoyed with the house, and eventually they do marry and lead a stable life. After a while, Juliet becomes pregnant. Regrettably, the joy does not last because they discover their child was stillborn on the day of birth. This was due to the drugs Juliet used to take, and although she had stopped, the toxins transferred to the child. From this point, everything crumbles, and Juliet falls into a depressive state. Jack tries a lot with her to get her out of this situation, but sadly, Juliet is shattered and accuses Jack of being the cause because he married her and got her pregnant. Due to the many problems between Jack and her, they've decided to distance themselves and split up. Juliet's life gets ruined and will be like before, perhaps even worse. One day she was sitting somewhere and happened to see on TV a terrorist incident that occurred, and the terrorists had used some weird chemical or biological substance to execute their plan. Because of this, 40 people died and many got very severely injured, and among the injured in this incident is Jack. Juliet becomes upset and decides to forget the differences. She goes to check on him because she still loves him very much, and when she gets to the hospital, she meets the doctor and learns from her that Jack won't be able to talk anymore. Unfortunately, this is because the gas from the explosion got to his throat and his entire trachea, and because of that, there is no hope for him to be able to talk again. This makes Juliet very angry when she finds out, and she decides to see him. His condition is deteriorating rapidly, so she tells him that she loves him and didn't mean for them to leave each other. Using a pen and a blackboard, Jack tells her that he loves her too and asks her to sit beside him. This is indeed what happens. The next day she goes to visit him in the hospital again, but sadly it's too late and Jack has passed away. This pushes Juliet to the edge and she cries a lot, and after we return to Juliet for now, she can finally talk to Ben and they learn what actually happened. Ben lets her know that there is a device in the car she can use to send them a signal so they can find her. He also tells her where the booklets are, which she can read after using the device, and she really does read the booklets. She follows the instructions given and manages to send him a signal informing him of her location. At the same time, the creature comes by again, relentlessly banging on the car and attempting to get in. Juliet understands that it's the creature that continues to assault her. Therefore, he advises her to use the car's headlights, as the creature will be scared away upon seeing them. She does exactly that, causing the monster to flee from in front of the vehicle. Afterwards, she calls back to ask when they will come to rescue her. However, he proves to be cruel during the call and informs her that they won't be able to reach her until morning due to the creature and the darkness of the night, so she ends up falling asleep. Very Juliet. But she doesn't have time to do anything because Ben closes with her, and after a while another hope appears for Juliet because there is a car that is parked next to it. So Juliet keeps calling the man in the car to follow her, and really the man gets down, but he has a knife and he wants to kill Juliet. You don't know if he is mentally retarded or cannibal. The important thing is that he wanted to kill her, and that is it. So Juliet tries to resist in all ways, but thank God the monster comes at the right time and pulls this man outside the car and kills him. After that, Juliet loses hope and decides to kill herself. But she reverses her decision when she remembers Jack, so she decides to get out of the car and make a plan to lure the monster into killing him. And after that you can walk, and really you get out, and the plan is to put a gas jar in a place a little far from it and keep playing with fireworks, so that the monster sees the light and gets close, and really she does that. And when he gets to the jerkin, a shot is fired at him, so the jerkin explodes, but the beast doesn't die because it can escape in the last moment. After that, the monster disappears and doesn't see it, but the monster suddenly, and without introductions, comes behind her and tries to strangle her, but Juliet doesn't give up, and she can keep him away from her, and she hides inside the car, but the monster stays behind her and pulls her out of the car. But before he attacks her, Juliet holds the gun and hits him with it until he finally falls, and she thinks he's dead and decides to rest a little and sleep in her place from tiredness, because of the hard day she came back with. And the next day when she wakes up, she is surprised that the monster is still living and breathing. After that, the monster comes close to her, and she doesn't have time to get up from her place, but he doesn't hurt her, and she makes a certain movement with his hand on her face, and this is the same movement that Jack always does to him, so she knows that this monster is her ex-husband Shaq. But he turned and became a monster of the monsters, and because he is very bad, she hugs him and says goodbye to him, and after that she pulls out the gun and kills him with a bullet in his brain because he is bad and harmful and eats cannibalism, and the monster dies, or Jack in her lap. And she cries in a very touching scene, and this way we understand that the world was destroyed because of the terrorist operation, that people turned into monsters like Jack, and the strange movie ends. And Juliet continues walking in this world, and that's it.